Hi there, my name is Tuomas and this is Sound of Free. In this video I was supposed to be reviewing pet sounds, but I forgot that this was the week that I was finally gonna be getting the Long Promised Road documentary soundtrack. And indeed it actually arrived yesterday. I've been waiting for this for months, since last year basically. Well, here it is, I'm gonna show it to you. The soundtrack was first released only on digital, and then I believe it was last year that I got a record store day limited release. I'm not sure how many copies was pressed, but probably just some hundreds. And finally it's getting a regular release, and probably this one is very limited as well, so you might want to actually go to Amazon or whatever record store you have over there and, order it for yourself, because first of all I highly recommend it. It works so much better on physical format than on streaming, and we'll dive into the reasons why just in a few moments. But if you don't know what this is, obviously it is the soundtrack for the Long Promised Road documentary, which came out a few years back, which is a great documentary about Brian Wilson in his 70s doing his studio work and also touring and his everyday life. And I did a review of it some time ago, and I'm gonna try to remember to put the link over there up. Oh, excuse me, if you haven't seen that, but just shortly, I recommend the movie. It's a great film, and well, the soundtrack is very interesting. It has two new tracks, one made for the film itself, and then it has a bunch of Andy Paley material from 1995. And then it has some live stuff. So it's a very mixed bag. It has a lot of different things, and when this was originally released on streaming, I felt that it was very hodgepodge and a weird combination of tracks that didn't really belong together. And what made it even more weirder was all the Paley stuff, because they are not in the movie itself, so it was just strange to have them over there, and felt like they were just thrown in to make up an album, which is obviously what was done, otherwise it would have been just an EP. But yesterday, as I was listening to this on the vinyl, which is the classic black vinyl, and the spine of the album cover is bluish, and the whole art design, the whole graphic design and typography, everything on this, by the way, is excellent. It looks very classic. I love when the insert it's simple. It has a great picture of Brian over here at the console desk in the studio, and has little notes of each song. They have some minor errors, like stating that The Night Was So Young is from 15 Big Ones. And what I found weird, there's a little note from Brian, and what I found weird was the naming of Jack Riley, which I know his real name actually was John, but I found it weird that it actually lists him as John Riley over here, because I've never seen that. I've never seen his name written that way in any of the albums, I guess. He's always just listed as Jack Riley, but I think his real name actually was John. But anyhow, I found that interesting. But I dig it so much that they included the players of each track on, they are like who did what. There's all the instruments and who played what, and I love that. So it has a lot of cool information for all you hardcore fans. But like I said, I dig the graphics style, the whole. Well, it's the poster of the movie, but it looks amazing, and it fits very well with all the recent Brian Wilson releases. Follows the same style. And listening, as I was mentioning previously, as I got sidetracked, listening to this last night on the vinyl, and having that experience with side A and side B, my whole perception of this album changed completely. It works so well, and I never thought that I'd say this while I listened to this originally on the streaming platform. Even the sound, how it varied from each track, because obviously some of the tracks were recorded almost 30 years prior to some of the more newer recent tracks, and somehow the sound quality wasn't that great on Spotify, and it felt weird to have those Paley tracks in between the news tracks and the live tracks, and it just was very strange. Track listing is completely made for a vinyl release, and it didn't really seem that way originally when it was just a digital release. But anyhow, let's go straight into the tracks, and I'll explain you what I mean in more greatly detail. It starts off with Right Where I Belong, which is the new track for the film, which was composed by Brian, and then Jim James wrote the lyrics and both sing on it. And it has very sparse instrumentation. I love the song. It's very catchy, and it reminds me somehow of the Love You material. And I like Brian's older voice. It is very strange at some parts, especially in the beginning with the is word. How it goes like you is or something weird. There's like some weird effect. It's not really auto-tune, but it's just some strange thing. I don't know what's going on with there. I remember listening to that the first. I'm thinking that's weird. I still listen to it and think the same thing. But these days I like it. Previously I didn't really like it, but now I think it's just funny. Well, and anyway, it's a great song, and it might be the last original Brian Wilson tune, which I hope it's not. Well, we haven't got any new material from him for several years now, and even this one was written 5 years ago. So it's an old track already, so it makes me kind of sad. But it's a great, I dig the lyrics and I dig the performance, and it's, like I said, it's a very catchy song. I like it. And then we have 4 Paley tracks. I'm Going Home, It's Not Easy Being Me, Must Be a Miracle, Slightly American Music, which ends side A. And this is what I mean with how it really works, because it starts off with a new track, and then we got the Paley tracks. And there's one at the end of side B as well, but I'll get into that as we go through the tracks. First of all, I'm Going Home is a cowboy type of a track. I really like it. And by the way, I had a problem with all the Paley material sounding kind of thin and hissy, noisy on the Spotify release, but on the vinyl they all sound much more richer, and I didn't notice any hiss. So I don't know if there's been something going on with the mastering or whatever, but they just sound so much better over here. And the transition from the new track to I'm Going Home is not that like ear catching. It's just not so noticeable, I guess. It works much better on vinyl somehow. Sound quality seems better. But I dig the track I'm Going Home. It's a fun track. It's Not Easy Being Me is... I like the track a lot. It's not the strongest of the Paley material. I like it musically, but the lyrics kind of are a bit too self-loathing for me. Like, obviously it's very autobiographical, and there are parts that I like, but some parts it kind of goes a bit too much into the self-loathing section, that part, and not too big of a fan of that sort of storytelling. But it's a great track musically, and I like how the melody goes all around the place, but it still is very recognizable. Like it sounds very much like Brian. It's very unique, and I dig it. Must Be a Miracle is my least favorite of the tracks on the whole album, and probably my least favorite of the Paley songs in general. It's not a bad track, but it's only 3 minutes and 30 seconds long but it feels like a 6-minute song. It's just so... I don't know, it's so slow or something about it. The instrumentation or the performance, I'm not sure. I don't have any issue with the lyrics or even the melody. I think it's beautiful, but somehow it just feels so much longer than what it actually is, which is why I skip it a lot if I listen to this on streaming. Slightly American Music is a fun song. I really dig it. I dig the part that Andy, I guess, sings, that low part at the end. It's just a fun track with a lot of references to Beatles and all kinds of I mean, it's kind of weird that they have Beatles over there, since it's slightly American music, I guess, but it mostly deals with references to American music from different decades, mostly like from the 40s and 50s and stuff like that. But I dig it. I think it's a fun, groovy tune. And then we go to side B, which is the live. I call it the live section, the live side. Even though obviously the first 5 tracks actually are not live in front of an audience, but they are performed live in studio, so they are not. They are produced by Brian, as you can see in the movie, but they are not produced in the traditional sense, as in making overdubs and a lot of different takes and combining them and stuff like that. It's very much done in the style of, hey, let's get the group together and everybody sings and plays the same time, and it's just one take and that's it. And you can hear all the words and all the misspellings and errors and stuff like that, so it's not like auto-tuned to death and made perfect, which is why I think a lot of people who had problems with like No Peer Pressure, or that's why Guy made the radio, that's why God made the radio. I think a lot of people who had problems with those records, especially the problems of the so to speak perfect production, would enjoy these tracks, and also the At My Piano album, because these are sparse, and especially these tracks, they might have some autotune, but they are not like made for perfection. You hear the old voice of Brian, and you hear it just feels raw. You hear the countings, and you hear little fiddlings, with the guitar, and these little things, little details, and it's just I dig it. I dig the idea behind this, and I wish there was more of these tracks. It's not like I'm gonna put It's Okay from this album to my playlist instead of the original one. No, but I love to listen to this once in a while. I think it's fun. And we also got one other new track, Rock and Roll Has Got a Hold on Me, over here, which I thought that was a brand new track composed by Brian, with taking parts from older songs to kind of mismatch them and compile a new song. But as the liner notes over here state, it's actually made from a demo from the Landy years. So it actually, I'm not sure if anybody else has more information about this, but if somebody has, I would love to know. I think it actually might be the original song, and then songs like In My Car and some other tracks might be actually borrowing from this one. So who knows, because it doesn't state the exact year over here when it was actually written. But I dig the song a lot. I think it's fun. I like that middle part with the more talky vocals. Brian sounds very cool on it, and I like the lyrics as well. Brian wrote the whole thing, lyrics and music. It's a fun track. I really like it. The Night Was So Young is obviously from Love You, one of my all-time favorite songs, and the version over here is nice, but Honeycomb obviously is the stellar track of this side, and like I think it's a classic with Right Up Where I Belong. It's the arrangement that Brian did over here of this old tune, which isn't written by him, is excellent. It is so ear-catching. It's like an earworm. I listened to this once last night, and as I woke up today, it was playing in my head all the time. And last year, as I was listening to this more, it was all the time in my head. It's just so catchy. And I love Brian's vocals on it, because he's very excited about it. Like he really sings it. Like you can really hear that he really digs singing the song. He really loves the song, and he's very enthusiastic about it, and it's in his vocals, and it doesn't sound bored or whatever at all. He really puts a lot into it, and I love that end, especially with the powerful vocal. It's just a fun track, and I love that the way he sings that little bird, I guess is the vocal, but bird, like the way he sounds like on that very gruff, like that, you know, that "love you 15 big ones" voice. He gets that back for like one word. It's great. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but he just is great. I mean, and then "Long Promised Road" is probably the worst of these new studio live recordings. It's not bad. It has some sections that I really like, but it's kind of wonky because it has three singers on it: Jim James, Blondie Chaplin, and Brian Wilson, and it kind of sometimes just doesn't flow as well as it could. But I still like it. In My Room, I think is an interesting choice for this. Is like the only actual live in front of an audience type of a track on this album, but I think it's an interesting choice. Obviously it's a Brian Wilson classic, but interesting choice as in, even though Brian sings throughout this rendition over here, you only can really hear him clearly in the beginning, but then as the whole group starts to sing with harmonies, his voice kind of just blends in or under that whole pad of, you know, sounds that the voices kind of just, you know, buried within. And I wished that they included something like for example Surfer Girl instead, because it has that more clear Brian solo lead part. But anyhow, I really love this version. Brian's singing is very sweet and on note. He just sings perfectly this one, and it reminds me of those dates that I saw him performing on the same year, 2000. I think it was recorded 17. No, it doesn't state it over here. I guess it's in the back. I think it was 2017 or 16. In My Room recorded. Oh, it's 16. Okay, but anyhow, it reminds me so much of those dates that I saw him during that time period, when he had a very soft voice still, but strong as well. And I haven't seen him since, so yeah, but it makes me think how great it would be if they would release a big live album of Brian Wilson from that time period, from 2016 and 17, around that time period with the Pet Sounds tour, and it would be great if they would do it as in like not to release a single show, because Brian always kind of varies with his performances. So it would be great if they would pick the best performances of each song that was performed and then compile a big live album of those, because he did some great performances on that tour. And then the album ends in a traditional Beach Boys Brian Wilson style with "I'm Broke," which is a crazy track from the Andy Paley era, and it's probably one of my favorite Brian Wilson solo tracks. It rocks hard. It's like a blues rocker with a great harmonica by Andy, and the melody is so simple, it's straightforward, it has a great fuzz bass, and the lyrics are funny. Obviously it's kind of it's not a funny situation to be broke, but I think it's just hilarious how Brian wrote this autobiographical song right after getting rid of Landy, and makes it just this hilarious groovy blues rocker, and the way he sings it is so hard rocking, soulful, gruff. Like he has this really gruff voice as he's singing this song, and I guess it kind of goes into the ding dang land, but I really like the song. It's so fun right from the get-go. It's just the way you first, like, In My Room ends, and then you get that dun, 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 dun. It's just so much fun. It's just complete 180. Yeah. So like I said, it's a great listen. It works so well with the vinyl format because you have those both sides. The first side being the Paley side, And you know, all of these tracks are previously unreleased, even though they are old tracks, so it's great to have them here. Obviously it would be even greater if we would have gotten like a true Andy Paley, Brian Wilson set with all the material, and also Sweet Insanity. That will be great as well, but you know, maybe someday. But it's great to have some of them here at least, and I'm very thankful for the people who made the documentary, the director Brent Wilson, and everybody that was involved, that we got this LP and we got the song Right Where I Belong from Brian, which, and then obviously I'm thankful for Brian as well for that. But and Jim James, it's a great track and I listen to it all the time. Check this out, I highly recommend you picking this up because it works so well on the vinyl format. And watch the movie again maybe as well, because it's a great movie. But if you haven't seen it, then obviously go and check that out. And so don't judge it from the Spotify streaming, you know, quality. I think that just didn't make it a justice. And just the cover art itself is worth to, you know, pick up and have on your shelf, because it just looks fantastic. I think it's one of the best Brian Wilson solo material artworks that he's ever had. What do you think about it? Have you heard it? And are you gonna buy it? Let me know in the comment section, and we'll see you hopefully soon again with the next one. Take care, bye bye.